Welcome to NOCLIP Pocket. I'm Chad Ruthermans.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And we'll be your hosts, your ghost hosts. Because today, we're going to be talking about Midnight Manor, a game that was developed and published by Travis Maynard and released in 2022 on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS.
But first, if you can give us a like or a rating, it would be greatly appreciated.
So Midnight Manor is I think it would be safe to say, a puzzle platformer game. And one that was suggested to us, I thought, several years in a row. But as it has been out for 1 year, that is not actually possible. Yeah. I had a creepypasta realization that I was living in a time loop and thought that this had been recommended more than it was. But here we are.
Yeah, I saw on the Steam page it was referred to as a pick-em-up platformer, which I thought was a funny joke.
Which it also does. There are other games like this, and they're all games that I have not really played.
Me neither.
But I do know that this is a real thing where they're like platform games where you pick up objects and carry them from place to place, and that's where the puzzle parts come in. And I'm sure that I have played something along these lines, but it's not like I'm an expert in the field.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is, and honestly, like, those are the mechanics of the game. You move around, you jump, and you pick things up. There are a few special moves that you can get, and there are things that can enhance your movement. But for the most part, that's what you're working with.
You get pumpkin power-ups.
Yeah, so the pumpkin power-ups that you spend... There's an achievement. I don't know if this is where you should talk about this in the podcast, Chad. Whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. There's an achievement in this game for smashing 100 pumpkins, and I'm reasonably certain that there are like 10 pumpkins in the game. So you have to play the game 10 times to do this. That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, it does say at the beginning, like, it's a game meant to be played multiple times, so...
we did do that.
And I don't know, I feel like that kind of... Even though I also have not played any other games I would call a pick-em-up platformer, so this is new to me, but it kind of seems like the sort of thing that would lend itself to, like, speed running. Like, just running around and picking up and throwing things as fast as possible, so maybe it's for those people who want to beat it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that is. I will say that, like, going into this game, this is not a game that is, like, exceptionally popular.
No, I tried to look. I usually look up a review or two to see what other people think about the game before we do the episodes. The only thing I could find about this was one speedrun. So
yeah, it is not. There's not a big community for it, but I can imagine a universe where it is popular for that reason. Because I found, especially given, because like you said at the beginning of the game, it does say expect to play through the game more than once. It's a short game. It doesn't save until you finish the game. That you can imagine that some people would want to continually go through and get better at it, because even as I played through it a few times, I was already like routing it, right? Like I'm like, okay, I gotta go here, and if I throw this instead of walking over and putting it down, that's gonna save me a couple of seconds. And that's kind of cool. It's also kind of bad, but we'll kind of talk about those things in separate bits. Did you find anything about the game, mechanically speaking, to be, like, notable? I have a couple of things I want to talk about, but I wanted to open the floor a bit.
I mean, I guess I found, like, I found the secret wall right at the beginning, and got the dash power up, and found that to be, like, surprising, given that your character is just like a fat Simpsons character. That you had like a dash, and then you get like a infinite jump, like Metroid style at the end. So I found it like surprising, the things that I got, but I don't know. They felt like just kind of tried and true. Like they felt. I mean, it felt good to control. Like for a single dev indie game, like it feels like the movement feels good.
Yeah, and that you touched on the thing that I mostly wanted to talk about, but in the fact that like because you get these power ups, and obviously like this game is not a game that takes itself 100% seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to say that it probably takes itself about 50% seriously. Your jump is animated by having your character just like spin around like Sonic the Hedgehog,
Even when you're holding things.
where you just have two static arms coming up out of the ball. And it's very funny because there's that juxtaposition between the way that the game actually looks and the design of your character, who is like, I mean, I got nothing against middle-aged balding dudes who look like a Simpsons character. I basically am that. So
If you get some kind of weird skin disease that makes you turn yellow,
yeah. I'm like one step away at all times from being the protagonist of this game. But it is just like it's that character. He's not like super. Like at no point in the game are you like, wow, what's his story? Like, but also you're kind of like, what is his story? Because why is he here? Why is this the protagonist? Like this game feels like Commander Keen, but it's not Commander Keen. It's like some guy. It's really strange.
Yeah.
And also very amusing, but
yeah, it very much feels just like an asset store, like character sprite or something. Yeah, it doesn't feel related to the game in any way, and was probably chosen because it looks funny.
Yeah, like it's the humor of it that is like that sells me on it, because like this is an intentional sprite. Because who is this? If this is an asset store character, what game does this guy belong in? Donut Eating Simulator 2022.
Yeah, he's just a background character from Tapper on the from arcades.
Yeah, exactly. That actually is probably what his backstory is. Like he was
he left that bar and then came to this manor.
Yeah.
This is a sequel to Tapper.
This takes place in the Tapper cinematic universe. But yeah, that I don't know. That's very funny. And the fact that when you get to the end of the game, you end up getting the space jump from Metroid, just straight up. And you're that guy and you're flying around in this like abstract like horror motif zone is just very good. And cracked me up pretty consistently.
Which is what you want from your horror game.
Exactly, yeah, because I was...
No, I mean,
humor and horror are right next to each other, you know?
Yeah. No, this game's definitely going for more of like a spooky vibe. Spooky, silly skeletons.
This is the like Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
Game of the year.
But with a few moments that are actually kind of spooky, like when you go down into the basement and stuff.
Yeah. Would you say this game is more or less scary than Dead Space?
It's pretty tough. But I'm gonna have to go with it's less scary than Dead Space.
Yeah, that's fair.
If only Isaac looked like a Simpsons character under his helmet.
I mean, that might actually be an improvement. I don't know if you had something to go into from that. I am already prepared at this stage to talk about this game, wanting you to go through it many times.
Sure. I guess I'll just say kind of to just cap off what we were talking about. Like I feel like this feels like the ideal or archetypical like itch.io game. I think it's like the perfect length. It like feels solid to play and feels like the skeleton of like a good game or like a good prototype where you're like, I'd like to see this guy make something else, you know, like
right.
It just feels like it's like that perfect level of like a thing, like a random thing you would want to find on a site like itch.
Which, if you just to insert a plug here, if you go to our Discord, the person who suggested this game actually did leave a link to other games made by the same guy.
Oh, there you go. I had forgotten that, and we'll now check it out.
So if you do feel that way after playing this game, you can go see what else he's done. I did not between completing the game and doing this podcast, but probably will just to check out. I mean, I have to at this point. Like, if I didn't do it, people would call me out because we did a whole podcast. But yeah, it is sort of that, I will say. I think the biggest thing about itch for me is always just that I don't know what it is that I'm going to find. And this is actually a decent segue, because this feels very much like a video game in a way that I almost kind of don't want in a solo dev game.
I kind of didn't expect it. Like, I expected something more like Home, to anybody who remembers that at like the second episode of NoClip Pocket.
Yes, Honk Honk Home, which I said specifically, I'm not calling the episode Honk Honk Home, but here we are.
Yeah, I expected something a little bit more like experimental like that, a little bit more moody.
Which is like, it's good and it's bad, because like it's not what I expected, obviously, and kind of what I would want. Like, when we think of the great horror games of the podcast, we're thinking about like Harvester, we're thinking about like Fatum Betula or Year Walk, things like that, Tamashi, that took video game as a loose suggestion as to what it is, a framework of what things should be there. That is really only true of Tamashi and Fatum Betula. Harvester is just an adventure game. But like, yeah, you think about these games that are really out there, and then you see like, oh, solo dev game that not a lot of people have played. Like, what creepypasta am I going to be a part of now? But then on the other hand, this is a good thing, because this is made by one guy, and I played this and was like, this is better than Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle. And it's just like, it feels like a game. It's got like keys and shit, and you're like, wow, I feel like I'm playing a real video game made by more than one person.
It does feel like kind of like a more old school video game.
Yeah. That is exactly how I would describe it. If I was you 5 seconds ago. Yeah, it was weird. This game made me kind of nostalgic, but like not for anything in particular. It like made me nostalgic for a time like in the 2010s, like early 2010s, maybe even late 2000s, where I was actively seeking out games that just wanted to do something fun with a weird concept. And this particular game's weird concept revolves sort of around its endings. And the fact that you're... I don't know. What do you think... Before I say anything slanderous, I do want to know what your thoughts are on the fact that this is like a kind of a collect the endings game.
I feel like the structure of the game doesn't lend itself to that at all. Because it's fun enough the first time through, but then you're like, okay, there's multiple endings. Like, now I have to like run around and collect all the bones again. It's not the most fun thing to do to get to the one point where you can make a different decision. So like, I did it twice and then was like, that's enough for tonight. Like, 2 endings seems good. And then right before we got on and recorded this, I got a third one.
Nice.
So the ones that I got were the sacrifice ending, the convergence ending, and the welcome home ending. Okay. I don't know what the fourth one is, but
pacify. Which is the most involved. I think it's the one that also gives you the end ? Achievement. Because you have to. There's like a thing that's just like in a wall.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it involve getting the super jump and then leaving the demon zone?
No, in fact, I tried to do that during it, and I don't know if it actually stopped me, but I think it stopped me and I plummeted straight down into something that triggered the ending. But because I did not find any other, there were no other achievements that I was aware of that related to more endings. I think that I did everything that you could there.
Yeah, that was the only thing I could think to do if I did go for a fourth try. I noticed there's like a trap door on the left side of the manor that I never opened. I didn't know if that had to do with something, but anyway, what do you think about it? Multiple endings thing?
About the same as you, honestly. I think that the reason that I'm sad about it, because normally when a game, and there's plenty of evidence of this on the podcast, like if a game says, great job, you got ending B, go back and see if you can get endings A and C, I just go, haha. Anyway, moving on to the next game. And I'm never going to do that. Fuck you. I just don't do multiple endings most of the time. Unless I, like, truly love the game. But with this game, like, obviously it's what it wants you to do. And I didn't want to come onto the podcast and be like, I did the sacrifice ending, and then I just said, all right, I'm done. 30 minutes of game. Time to pack it in, guys. So I did go back and go through it, and it saddens me a bit because I could see a situation where this becomes cool again. Like, because of how short the game is, it would be interesting if, like, as you collected the pumpkins and stuff, they would stack. So, like, you don't lose the dash, and you keep getting more and more jumps, which would make completing the game even faster, and then the speed would continue to climb. So treat it like a roguelike, kind of, or rather a roguelite, to just sort of like encourage you to go back through and make each playthrough a little bit different. But then the other thing you nailed instantaneously, which was when you're playing a game that has multiple endings, like I brought up Fatum Bachelor, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. If you haven't played the game, this isn't a major spoiler. In fact, it would be really difficult to spoil that game.
Yeah.
Everything that you do in that game goes toward getting a different ending, and you can make a different decision point at like 100 different places over the course of a normal playthrough of being like 8 minutes long. And in this one, it is you get the bones, you get the icons, and then that's when you make your first decision. And if you choose not to kill the dude, then you go get the ghosts, and then you finish the game. Like, to me it feels like there's too much, even with a game as short as this, there's too much just repeated content to make me want to go through the game multiple times, which is what you said. And I'm repeating it, and I apologize, but I do agree with you.
Yeah, but even if it could like change, right? Like if you beat it and then you immediately go into a second run through, like if there were like secret trap doors or like anything to like speed it up, or like for things to be a little bit different to make it like at least more interesting, if not faster.
Right.
Yeah, it would help a lot, I think. It would also make it feel more mysterious.
True. And like I kind of get like what they're going for here, right? Like it is a game developed by one person that's very short, and doing it this way means you've less unique stuff you have to make, and you can drag out the runtime a bit. But I don't know if anybody, correct me if I'm wrong, send me an email at noclippodcast@gmail.com. If you pay $1.99 for a game made by one guy and you go, oh, I didn't get my money's worth because it was only half an hour long. Like, that seems ludicrous to me. So it, like, I feel like, and it's not, I'm not blaming the people who bought the game. It's just like, that seems like something you should consider. It's like, if you have a solid thing, then dragging the runtime out doesn't feel like it's that valuable of a something to go for.
Yeah. Or, like, I also feel like the game's got some, like, cool secrets, too. Like, like, there's, like, spots where you can, like, drop down into the floor, even though you can't see that that's possible. And, like, I don't know. I feel like leaning into that kind of stuff, like I feel like there's ways it could have made it work a little bit better, but yeah, like I ultimately agree. The multiple endings aren't really adding all that much.
Mm-hmm. Which, I don't know. I mean, because that's the main thing holding me back with it. It is the fact that it is multiple endings, and the fact that it does have this like this mystery to it of the Midnight Manor is what makes me nostalgic for those weird old games. But at the same time, is also what makes me, maybe I'm old. Is that the conclusion that we once again are coming to?
I mean, it is true. So
yeah.
But like I think it also would have helped if I didn't get the sacrifice ending as my first one. Like if I had done the convergence one first, and then on my second run through, there's like a whole hell dimension under the manor that probably would have seemed more surprising and exciting.
True, yeah. Because I did the same thing. I also got that version first. I think what's funny is that like that to me seems like it should be the secret that is hardest to find just by how it's presented. Because in order to get there, you have to find those dots on the wall.
Right, which you will probably
I guess are
walk
just
past, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're just too obvious because we both went there immediately.
So what is the fourth ending? Like, what is the one that I didn't get?
Yeah, so that's Pacify, and the way that you get it is, if you recall, there's one of the secrets is a wall you can walk through that's like, as you go up, what I assume represents stairs. They're like some platforms. And if you go left, there's like a long room, and then 3 crates, and then to the left of that, there's this circular thing with blood dripping down the wall. And if you go to the bottom floor, the basement, as a lot of people call it, and catch all the ghosts, and then take them up to that thing and put the relic in it, then it gives you another dot thing in the center, which you then take to hell and do that whole section, and then when he pulls the thing up for you to get in, you put the relic in instead, and then he like gets sucked into the altar. And then at the end, after the credits, it goes like, whoa, 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 and then it cracks open and he comes back out, except he's like itty bitty.
Yeah, I don't know. That would have probably taken me forever to figure that out. So.
Oh, I was obsessed with that thing because I found it on my first playthrough, and I was like, what is this for? So I would like take stuff into it and throw it at the thing, and nothing ever happened.
Right.
And so when I finally did get it to do something, I was like, I'm taking this all the way to the end. Because otherwise, what's the point? Why are we here? Why are any of us here? If we're not going to find out what happens
if we're not going to converge with the old man.
Exactly. Which, honestly, that's my favorite ending, just because there's like a prolonged period of body parts raining. Yep,
rains viscera
you knew.
From the sky, yep. You could jump up on top of the house and let it rain on you. That's
true. Did you find the 2 secret pumpkins outside that aren't the one to the left?
There's one on the house and there's one up on the ledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sure didn't until my very...
Well, yeah, I didn't find them right away.
Right. Well, I was like, oh, I didn't find them at all.
Yeah,
and
I
I'll
found
explain.
them on, I think, my second run through.
I tried to get up the ledge by just stacking all the boxes in the area, and it's not high enough to get up there, and I did not know that you could jump on the windowsills. And I got my third ending, and I was like, that's probably enough Midnight Manor to talk about it.
Right.
But then I was like, well, let me just Google it so I could see the ending before we closed. And I found maybe the very same speed run.
It has to be, yeah.
The Welcome Home ending speed run, where they jumped up on the house. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So I was like, I'll get the last ending fine.
Yeah, for me, I on the like I also tried to get up on that ledge, and like I kept trying to like leave the manor with boxes. I was like, I'll take boxes from inside outside so I can do it, and it doesn't let you. But
Right.
if you go for the convergence ending, after you capture all the ghosts and bring the thing back to him, you can leave, and like that's
Right.
when I got up on those spots because I had the double jump and everything, and I was able to get up there.
Yeah.
So that's
I
when
was able
that's
to
when I figured it out.
Yeah, I was able to get up there during the convergence ending. But there isn't anything up there like while the ending is happening.
Right.
So yeah, like I was like, oh, okay, there's just nothing here. And then I didn't know on the maybe there was something there if I went to the ledge and did the drop down.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got there and there was nothing there, I just didn't try and just left. So
Right.
that was a genuine secret that was kept from me just by hiding it real good. So I guess you stumped me on that one. Good job.
Travis.
Good job, Travis. How did you feel about the fact that the every time that you got to the last part of the game where you had to, or the last part of the game, wink, wink, where you have to hit the ghosts, that your ears started bleeding from that horrible yelling at you soundtrack that was happening?
I feel it probably was a little bit too loud in the mix. But I mean, I don't know. I wasn't playing with headphones, so I feel like
that would help.
I feel like that would have made it much worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still kind of deaf from that.
I feel like it was trying to go for like a creepy sound design thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a little harsh.
Yeah, I did really like the Halloween Town ass soundtrack for the rest of the game. It was just that one part, and I even like the song and just wish that it didn't bottom out my headphones every time that I got to that one part. And I realized that that's the point, but like, I don't know, it felt like it was starting to cause me physical pain at some point, and that may have gone too far.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've probably got pages of notes to go over, so.
Now I feel like I've sprinkled everything in.
Yeah.
It is only a 30-minute game.
That's true. Do we have femur thoughts?
My femur thoughts are... this is an interesting little indie game. Oh, a solo dev indie game. It does have satisfying movement, I think. So, yeah, like I was kind of saying earlier, like, I feel like it feels like a good proof of concept or the good, like, skeleton, you know, of something that could be fleshed out into more. And yeah, and so I'll definitely have to check out that list of other games that this guy has made. Yeah, I think it's just the fact that it is such a small project, you know, like there's things about it. It's easy to point to things and be like, oh, this could be better, that could be better. But I don't know. It's better than anything I've made. So it feels kind of hard to be like too critical of it. I do think that like the structure of it, like my big takeaway would be that the structure of it doesn't really lend itself to the multiple ending thing, and I think the multiple endings is supposed to be like the hook. So that doesn't quite land or mesh to the as good as it could. So yeah, interesting little game. It's really short, and you know I enjoyed my time with it. Don't regret it. So. Yeah, a fun, interesting little spooky romp.
Yeah, that is fair. I think putting it as saying that it seems like a skeleton is both thematically and also mechanically appropriate.
Pun intended.
Yeah. So I'll just sort of mirror what you said, I would say. Like, I think it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I think that it unintentionally became a case study on me talking more about not liking having multiple endings. But I think it's interesting to see how different developers tackle similar problems, I think is what it is. Like, this is a one-man team that made this game and really, like, bore out something that looks, sounds, and feels to me like a real ass game that was fun to play, had good movement, like you mentioned, had secrets which were genuinely compelling, and a mystery of like the motivation of the old man and what's in the manor and why the fuck is that thing there, which are all like, they're all hooks to keep you playing, and they all sort of worked the way I assumed that they were intended. So I can't really make too many complaints about it. And I, in the end, would recommend this to a lot of people because, I mean, fuck, it's $1.
Mm-hmm.
$1, man. Like, now you can't really, well, $1.99 or whatever, but it's not much. It's a very low barrier to entry, and it's the kind of thing that, like, I don't know, what, it's a Tuesday in October? Hell yeah. Let me boot up a game for that takes a half an hour to get through. It's this is sort of the same motivation that got me into David Schmansky's games, which we did a whole thing on last year. So yeah. Cool, fun time. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP Pocket this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, sadly, it's no longer Halloween.
Boo.
But we are going to be talking about some fun other games. And the first one is going to be Anodyne, a Zelda-like.
Yeah. So this is a game that's been on my radar for like fucking ever. I've just never played it, even though it's like short and cheap. But yeah, it's like an indie Zelda-like. And from what I know about it, I think it's supposed to be kind of like a weird little mysterious kind of indie game. So we'll see if that pans out.
Oh, maybe it is like Halloween?
Woo!
Stay tuned.
I don't know if it's supposed to be scary.
Well,
but,
yeah.
We'll see.
We will find out. And until we find out, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our email or Twitter account, our Discord server, where you can check out the other game. Well, I mean, you can check out his itch page to find the other games by Travis Maynard, but there is a link in our suggestions channel. And you can listen to any of our old episodes, including the ones that we did on Fatim Bachala or on Harvester.
Tamashi, Earwalk.
Yeah. The David Szymanski games. And a separate episode entirely on Chop Goblins.
Yeah, we got a lot of interesting, weird little indie games to choose from.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we had anything that was like specifically an itch release, but I can't.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I cannot remember at this point. We have like many hundred of games that we have talked about, so just look around.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're looking, don't accidentally walk through the wall. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's the like button.
Throw a jack-o'-lantern at the subscribe button to unlock the double jump.
Complete the world-ending demonic summoning ritual with all the rest of the cultists in the comment section. Welcome to NOCLIP, the podcast that's like a book club for people who like to put books in their pants and do a little dance. I'm Chad Ruthermans.